Thank you so much. And thank you to WiDS for having me here today. I thought we would talk about something that is new and perhaps trendy in the industry, and that is around experiences, and how experiences are connected by data, which is a topic I think that we are all quite interested in. So, some information about the importance and the value of experiences. What we mean by this are the moments that customers and consumers have in engaging with brands, the highs and the lows of the experiences that they're having. And as a result of that, the impact to business revenue and business success. And you can see that today, in today's world, many people aren't shy about sharing their experiences very broadly. In fact, today, I just read an article about a Russian who had a really negative experience with a hotel chain, with a hotel reward points chain, and he wasn't shy at all about promoting his feelings, and that was shared very broadly now. We have LinkedIn, Instagram, various social media outlets for people to complain. And when they complain, they leave, and they become disloyal to a brand. We have an attrition problem there. And you can see here that 95% of customers who have a bad experience share that. That really is a very negative impact in terms of a company's priorities around customer loyalty, customer retention. But what I think is really interesting is the disconnect between executive level perception and reality. The disconnect between what CEOs feel that they are doing in terms of driving an experience. Here we see 80% of those executives think everything's great, world is perfect. We're doing everything that we can to promote customer experience. We're doing it in a way in which drives moments that people are resonating to. But in reality, only 8% of people agree with that. What a huge disconnect is. We're all data people here. We know that the numbers don't lie. So if we take this as an opportunity, we can see how the power of data can influence those experiences and those moments. Here are two examples. So perhaps some of you have seen this Coca-Cola machine in fast food restaurants or fast casual restaurants, yeah? Where consumers now have the ability to create their own beverage. They go up to the machine and they can select over 175 different combinations of Coca-Cola products. I know a lot about this because my husband works for Coca-Cola and was on the team that developed this. And I will tell you that when we lived in America, we were in Atlanta, Georgia, and when Coca-Cola rolled out this machine, there was a line out the door of the fast food chain that was introducing this. People thought it was so cool to be able to create your own beverage, to be able to have your combination of, for me, I like Coke Light with a little bit of lime. My husband goes for the full-fat Fanta cherry with lots of ice. So it started off as an opportunity to improve the customer's experience in the fast food chains, to give the fast food workers relief from having to use their fountain to create drinks, and to put that power in the hands of the consumer. But what it turned out to be is a data collecting machine. So now Coca-Cola, as a CPG company, has insight into customers' experiences. They now understand what flavors are preferred. They understand what combinations of flavors customers choose. They understand how many times does the customer go back for a refill. They understand where the products are consumed more in which retail environments. So they're getting insights into customer experiences and behaviors that they never would have gotten before. The other example is around Disney. So if you've been to Disney recently, you might recognize they have introduced a new concept called the Magic Band. Super cool. Imagine having a band on your wrist and not having to wait in line to buy a ticket, to bring cash. You've got your kids in tow. You're trying to have a great experience. Disney has enabled you to do that very sufficiently with the Magic Band bracelet. And so it contains all of the information that you need to drive your experience. You can use the Magic Band to pay for goods, to go to the Fast Pass to get bypass the queues, and it carries you through the park. Not just the park, but also the Disney restaurants, the Disney stores, the entire experience. And what Disney has done is brilliant, because they are now able to capture, through the Magic Band, they're able to capture real-time experiences that customers are having with their brand. They are able to understand the customer's path through the park. They can gather information on what the customer is purchasing. They can gather information on which rides are the most popular. All of that insight comes very seamlessly through devices. And I think this is a trend, and this is an area where companies can get insight and information on these moments that matter without being very obtrusive. And so when we think about this from a data perspective, I mean, look at that disconnect between what executives think they're doing in terms of driving good experiences and what the reality is that people are saying, no, you're not. These are some of the ways in which we, as data professionals, can see the information that can come from various interactions with customers. And it starts really from the basics. So we think about the concept of having a basic set of knowledge about the customer, having a high quality, ethical, trustworthy, consented set of content around customers. That means just some of the basic things that customers really like. Spell my name correctly. Know where I live. I do business. I interact with you. Understand me. And then it builds up from there. So then we have the opportunity to look at the various engagements that the customer is having with us. The 360-degree view, right? That's the dream of getting insight into all the different channels and ways in which the customer is engaging. And then really understanding what are the insights that we can get from capturing those moments of how the customer is interacting with us. Are we delivering on the brand promise that we have marketed or presented to the customer? Are we getting a more optimal experience by ensuring that we use the customer knowledge in a way in which drives those experiences to the positive? This is really the power of data. Customers give us data all the time. I think the challenge is, are we really capturing that data in a way that makes it meaningful to the business? And are we really seeing the customer's behavior across a variety of experiences? Not just one interaction point, but all the various ways in which they engage with a brand or with an organization. And all of this together brings us insights into the customer's moments that matter, and also gives us the ability to then predict. I think that's really where the true value is by taking all the learnings that we have about customers and then turning that into insights that the business can then take and drive change. Yeah? And I think that's where we start to get to that disconnect, is that I think we might have pockets of information about the customer, but not yet pulling all of that together in a way that drives intelligence. And the intelligence is where it's all about, because the intelligence is what's going to drive the innovation. Yeah? So if we think about this starting from the very basics of getting customer information right, ensuring that we are trustworthy, ethical in how we want to use that information, but then building upon the basics into understanding all of the ways in which a customer engages, and then turning that into insight by using our data science skills, our analytics skills, to be able to turn that information into ways in which we can predict what the customer is really looking for, what the customer's desires are, what the customer's high moments are. But beyond just the customer data, we can take the opportunity to look across the ecosystem and use a combination of data, so both the customer experience data, but also ecosystem data, data that comes from supply chain, data that comes from operations. It's the combination of that that really helps us to reshape the experiences and create new, more meaningful ones. So you take all the good insight that you have on the customer and the customer's engagements, the customer profiles, and then you marry that up with operational data, product data, supply chain data, all of that comes together in the ecosystem. So I'll use the example of Disney again with the magic bands. You know what they did with that data? It's brilliant. They understood the customer's behaviors and patterns in the park. They combined that with their labor data. They combined that with their employee data and were able to change and manage schedules of people working in the parks. So they understood, okay, well, in the morning, everybody goes here, and in the afternoon, everybody goes there. So let's change our staffing algorithms to ensure that we have the right resources on hand. Let's make sure we have those characters placed in the right spots in the park. They do that based on the knowledge they collected from the bands. But beyond that, they chose to create what they call the vacation management concept. Again, brilliant here. They were able to look at the ways in which the customers were experiencing Disney, the parks they went to, the rides they went on, et cetera, and put together customized packages for improving the vacation experience for those customers. Think about that. So you're taking all this good customer data, you're combining that with your own ecosystem data, the availability of your, in this case, their hospitality packages, and offering customized, personalized, meaningful experiences to that customer. And they saw a 30% increase in hotel occupancy as a result. So it's this combination of customer data and operational data that really brings the power. And the end goal here is to create differentiated experiences. Through reshaping, through modeling, we are then able to say and create opportunities for customers to have a personal, one-to-one relationship with the brand or with the organization. That's really where the high value is. Customer loyalty comes from having more of those personal experiences, more of those high moments where customers are really engaging and customers become loyal and customers are offered an opportunity that is meaningful for them, and that's when they will purchase and retain. Another example is the Coca-Cola one. So here's how Coke took the information that they captured from the Freestyle drink machine and combined that with supply chain data. So they were able to analyze all of the different combinations of flavors that were popular in a particular location and turn that into product development, stock, inventory on site, and they were able to provide that insight back to the retailers. So they changed the way they managed their supply chain based on the input they were getting from the customer experiences with the machine. In fact, in the US, Coke just rolled out a new flavor based on input that they got from Freestyle. It's orange vanilla Coke. Not my thing, but okay. So Coca-Cola then took that information and put it into their supply chain and combined the data to then deliver a product out to the market that was very well received. So great for them, right? We can see many examples of where companies, whether they're delivering insights directly to consumers or to businesses, where the combination of data and the possibilities of data are becoming more and more important to being able to say that we have intelligence and insight into what those experiences are. Another example is where we have not just the supply chain, but the product insight, but actually taking Internet of Things data and then translating that into stock on the shelves. Let's say I read an article about a new shopping trolley at a grocery store. So not only was it cool because it was biodegradable, so no more plastic trolleys, I thought that was really cool, but it was an intelligent trolley. So it tracked the motion of the shopper throughout the store. And it also had an ability to collect and store payment information. So the shopper didn't need to get out their credit card. So it was a little bit like the magic band, but in a shopping trolley. And the input there was for the retailer to be able to understand the pathway through the shopping store, but also to understand what products were popular, and to provide a better experience by understanding that many of those shoppers were women with children. So they changed the design of the carts to be more family-friendly. So using data in ways in which you take the combination of experiences and input from your own operations and drive changes to the way you interact with your customers. That's the real value. That's bridging the gap between the disconnect there, between what CEOs think they're doing and what's really happening. And doing so with a fact-based, value-centric approach, right? I think to me that's quite important. And so another trend that we're seeing is the concept of open data sources. I don't know if you've seen, there's been a lot of hype around open data initiatives. So even taking data outside of your own ecosystem and combining that and collaborating without walls and boundaries, recognizing there's value in collective data, and then using that data to understand experiences with your brand, but also with similar brands. I think that's the direction that we need to take. And then ultimately, again, creating the lot size of one, getting to a personal experience is really where the value comes for the organization. But it doesn't just happen with data and facts. It also has a very important people element. And here's where you come in terms of your role as data professionals. The importance of having a data-centric culture. The importance of having data literacy in your organization. And by that I mean that the organization and the people who work for the company understand data, understand the power of information in a way in which it translates into their roles and responsibilities and what they do. And data literacy is not about charts and graphs and showing all the cool, fancy things we can do with data science and analytics. It's about telling stories. It's about translating that information into meaningful dialogue, into words that matter to the business, in ways in which resonates with the business so that each and every person in the organization realizes the power of the information and how that information can drive change and improved behavior and ultimately increased revenue and innovation for the organization. And the role that I ask you to play is being the ambassador for data literacy in your organizations, is to be able to have the power and the knowledge to take the information that we're all so comfortable with, being data folks, that we then take that and share it in a way that is spoken in the language of the business, that kind of goes beyond the charts and graphs and tables that we're all comfortable with, but in a way in which within every team meeting, within every conversation, we speak data in a way in which is about the business and a way in which can resonate with someone who doesn't have the same backgrounds as we do. To me, that's where the data culture will exceed, and it's where we will actually be able to drive change. And it also comes from the top. So it also comes from having executives who are aware of the power of the information that they have in their organizations. I think that also contributes to the disconnect. It's because our CEOs, our executives, are really hearing the full picture. Are they really getting the full story of the experiences that customers are having? They might see the numbers and they might think everything looks great. We're doing everything really well. But what they're missing is maybe the sentiment of the moments that the customer is having with the brand that are captured in a device, maybe not as open as a magic band or a Coca-Cola machine, but there are ways in which we can capture all the various engagements and the moments that customers are having within the organization's outward-facing moments and translate that into a way that's more meaningful to the executives. Yeah, that is not just about growth numbers or percentage of revenue or percentage of product adoption or marketing analysis, but goes beyond that in a way in which is easy to understand. It's easy for the executives to understand the power of that information. And to perhaps at the same time, reduce the fears. I think sometimes executives think that, oh gosh, data is so complicated. Why is it so complicated? We have to do a better job as a community to remove those complexities, yeah, and to be very precise, but also perhaps a bit more simple. And in my experience, that's done really well with stories. So it's stories, and it's combinations of these moments and experiences that bring about the improvement in data culture. And you support those experiences with facts and numbers, of course. But the introduction is more about the business engagement and the business language. So there are many ways in which we can leverage the experiences and recognize that those experiences matter. They make the difference between whether or not a customer buys or a customer leaves. And if they are unhappy, they will tell all their friends. We all know that. And we can capture information in a way in which is ethical and trustworthy and drives more intelligent decisions within the organization. If we combine the customer information with ecosystem data, we get the power to be able to create personalized, customized experiences. And there's this human aspect of then taking all of that good insight and translating it in a way in which resonates with the business. So I think all of this is helpful for you, but I wanted to leave you with one thought, and that is we've been talking about the experiences from customers. This very same methodology and approach can be used to drive improvements in employee experiences. Think about that. Think about an employee's experience with an organization. Follows the same path. Think about the ways in which we can use employee data and insights to improve those experiences. I just yesterday read an article about IBM's use of Watson and artificial intelligence to predict when employees are going to leave the organization. I think that's super cool if people can do that. I think that will give executives insight into some of the problems that they may be having with attrition. SAP is venturing out with Ariana Huffington's Thrive program and using some of our tools to be able to understand employee behavior and employee experiences and marrying that with management techniques, finding that the gap is primarily in having training level appropriate training opportunities for employees, that's a real driver of attrition. So think about having employee experiences and the data around those experiences very much the same way as those customer experiences. And remember that we are all the kings and queens of consumer behavior, that we all have the power in our hands to be able to drive various moments and experiences and share those when we feel it's appropriate. So think about that the next time that you're engaging with one of these brands, and in the hopes that you will take this information back to your organizations with some fresh ideas. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I would love to talk further about the opportunity for experiences either on the customer side or the employee side throughout the day today. And feel free to contact me via email or in LinkedIn if you want to keep the conversation going. Okay, thanks very much. Do you want to take questions?
Yes.
Super. We've got a few minutes left.
More. I could give her more.
Thank you. I would like to ask about the customer experience. So could it be some kind of data morality from companies to, of course, we could get a lot of data from our customers, but maybe it could be a line which we cannot just cross.
Yeah. I mean, I think the question is around being ethical. Yes? and being able to gather insights from customer experiences in a way that is ethical and moral, and not in the realm of what we would say creepiness. And doing that in a way, and you can do that today, as you know, through anonymization, through generalities, through trend analysis, without crossing the line into customers' privacies. You can also ask for the consent up front. So it's another way of doing that in terms of gathering information on the experiences. So the Disney Magic Band, when you buy the Magic Band and you buy your tickets and you fill the Magic Band up with dollars to support your experience, you give away your right at that point. So there's that consent in terms of the engagement, yeah.
But are all these people actually aware of that? Because, of course, company knows, but I think that many people just don't understand that they lose their information, their privacy at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think people are aware when they go to use the Coca-Cola device that Coca-Cola is capturing information about them at that time, no. But do we realize that in today's world, it is very much of an open ecosystem where companies are collecting information about us, where data about us, the minute that we go on the internet, we have lost some ability for privacy. That's just the nature of the world that we're in today. I think in Europe, in particular with GDPR, we have at least made some progress in terms of regulations in a good way. I'd love to see more of that. I would love to see GDPR become global, to have the global set of regulations and rules. But the reality is we live in a very diverse world, and we have China over here with quite a lot of structure and rigor, and we have the US and America's over here, the complete opposite, everything open, and then we have Europe somewhere in the middle, right, in terms of the regulations. We've got to fix that, and I think that can only be done at a very senior level through some of the forums that we have for our political leaders to come to some agreements on what is ethical and what data privacy regulations should be across the globe. In reality, we all work for, well, many of us work for global companies, and so it's a challenge for us to try and regulate the processes that we have with our customers when we have customers who are in China or who are in Europe or who are in America, and we have multiple ways in which we would engage with them. So it makes our jobs really difficult. So I see GDPR as a forcing function. So I hope that Europe steps up and demonstrates to the rest of the world that this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
Hi, thanks for your talk.
Hi.
It was very interesting. In the beginning, you said something like, we trust in data, we trust. And I actually disagree with that. I think it's very dangerous for data scientists in particular. And I was wondering if you have experience translating that knowledge to the higher levels. For example, in the Disney example, you could say, okay, people are in location A in the morning and location B in the afternoon because somehow, let's say location B is more convenient in the afternoon after everybody has spent some energy. But maybe people planned it because on the way there's a lunch opportunity, and that's why they do that. And I think in data scientists, it's very easy to find a story in our data, but it might not necessarily be the correct one. And I find this is very hard to teach other people, especially when it goes into the realm of statistics, for example, sample sizes.
Yes.
Then maybe we have some more samples, so the story changes.
Yes.
So what's your experience with that?
Yes, so I think there's always the margin of error, right? I mean, when we're talking, we're not always in absolutes, yes? I think you're right. The sample size, the environment, maybe the weather that day dictated the path of the customer through the park. I think we have to look for trends and patterns. And I think that's what executives, they understand there's going to be some nuances with the data. They're not always looking for 100% factual. They're looking for directional information. What trends are you seeing? What patterns are you seeing in terms of your analysis? That's where, and where are the innovations? Where are the gaps and the opportunities to drive change? That's what they want to see. They understand that it's not going to be perfect. They understand that we're talking about customer experiences and maybe not everyone has consented to share. Yeah, they understand that sample sizes vary and that there are other factors, yeah. I think it's also in the way in which the story is told, and perhaps, again, looking at not just single instances, but repeatable instances. That, to me, carries a lot more weight when you can say that, okay, this isn't just a one-time. This is something that we see as a pattern or repeated.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Oh. Okay, my question is mostly out of curiosity.
Okay.
So in the beginning, you said that Coca-Cola and Disney, they had the magic band or like this dispenser to collect the data and then try to improve their processes based on the data. So my question is that, were they able to do or narrow the gap between the customer experience and the CEO perception?
That's a good question.
After doing such processes or doing some optimization in their processes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if we've ever gone back to ask those CEOs, but I will tell you that the CEOs are smart and they realize the value to the bottom line. So they must be able to understand that by implementing these process changes and these new devices and being more intelligent about customers, they have seen the results in the numbers. So I would hope that that would shift their perception, but we haven't asked them that. So that's a good next step, a good idea to go back and ask them now if they've seen a change and they realize. I also think that executives are a bit more connected now. So I will say from the SAP experience, our executive leaders, our board, listens to the customer and has invested quite a lot more into understanding the experiences that customers have with SAP, more customer councils, more surveys, more checkpoints. They've done that on the customer side, but also on the employee side, getting a lot more insight into employee challenges, employee moments. So they're at least listening more and maybe paying more attention to the unstructured data that's coming from social media outlets.
Hi, Tina. I don't know if you read Weapons of Math Destruction from Katie O'Neill, but I think building up the conversations we had about data is very important, but data literacy is, I think, lacking in the world, and people are misusing data. So how might we increase the data literacy? What is SAP doing to maybe upskilling their internal employees or you know, the ecosystem partners?
Yeah, absolutely. Gartner said that by 2020, 50% of the companies will not understand how to extrapolate the value of artificial intelligence and machine learning. They won't understand it because they're not literate. I know that sounds, but literate in a way in which they're not able to then translate that information into business value. What we're doing at SAP, for example, is we are very active in marketing our work within the organization. So we actually brought, this is just, so we're a data management organization. We actually brought in marketing expertise into our team. Why do we need marketing? We need marketing to be able to change the behavior of the organization. We need marketing to help us create the stories. So I think that is a shift in skill sets for our profession, is that the ability to tell stories, to market, to explain, to share in a way in which is well understood and accepted. I think it also is going to change the priorities around how we hire and who we hire. I hope that we're making a difference in sessions like these where we get people thinking about their jobs a little bit differently. I also know that Gartner as an example, I was just at a Gartner conference in London, and data literacy and data culture was a thread. And they gave some guidance to how executives in the data space can be the champions of data literacy in their organizations, and holding workshops and teaching. Another example at SAP, one of the marketing efforts was to create a brand around data within the company. So we used to use SAP runs SAP. We've done SAP for good. We have SAP making data work for SAP. I mean, there's all sorts of things that we're doing to get people thinking of data in a different way. And we've spent a lot of time internally in presentations like this, where we tell the stories. Yeah, and I think that makes a big difference. So we'll get there, hopefully before 2020, but I do think it's an important priority.
All right.
And I think all of us in the room have an opportunity to drive change in our groups too as well. In every meeting that we're in every conversation that we have, being able to talk about what we do in a way in which is spoken like without getting too scientific. There's this art element, I think, to what we do. Yeah.